All right, my goal today is to finish this unit. We can do it in an hour or an hour and a half or two. It shouldn't take two. So I want to finish it today, which means I'll be formally signing the assignment tracker program. We'll have some lab time today to work on it some more. And I'm guessing we'll have a little lab time on Tuesday because I don't think it's fair to start right in on Unit 2 before you barely had a chance to tickle Unit 1. So, did I say tickle? Tackle. Jeez. I gotta switch to gin. This vodka's just not working for me. All right. Last time we started talking about constructors, and what I have done to you here is switched you to the 4 o'clock sample. If you've got yours and you want to follow along, stick with it. The only thing that's different is I showed them how to use, remember there were snippets and there was the refactoring, encapsulate stuff. We built these properties using just the snippets. Right. So this is what I think they could look like, and I'm fine with this. Notice that the members are right above their properties.
What was the shortcut again for this?
Prop full tab tab. Right. So that's how these were built. If you don't have them, don't worry about it. If yours are split up, don't worry about it. Doesn't make any difference. But what I'm showing you is that to me this looks okay. I can live with this. So if you want to do it this way, you can. Please remember, and I will try to remember to update. Remember to describe every one of your data members still. What is this thing for? Come on. All I want's an S, please. There. I don't think it's used anywhere. It might be used in the constructor. All right, so those are all there, and they're now inside a region. Remember, we can use regions to organize our code. So here I have a region that has all my members and properties in it. And this is what my class looked like when I opened it. If I collapse all my regions, there's not always a lot left. But inside each region, there can be a ton of stuff. Last time we also worked on our constructor. Remember, whenever you instantiate a pizza order, and we did that in the Solution Explorer here in the main form. I think I was demonstrating it in form load. How come that didn't take long? In form load, where'd it go? Here, I instantiated a pizza order. Whenever you instantiate the pizza order, the constructor is executed automatically. If you don't have a constructor, it uses the default constructor that really doesn't do much except give you memory for all of the members that you ask for. Typically, and in my class, you will always define your own constructor. So this says, give me a brand new pizza order and make an order, point to that. We then put a breakpoint here and saw that that an order, that pointer, that pizza order, had all these values in them. So for every single member, I assigned it a value. For most strings, it's the empty string, unless there's some size, for instance, that you want to set. In the constructor, I typically put the data immediately into the member. Typically. I could here have said pepperoni. Make it false. What that says, take the value false, give it to the property, and then the property puts it in the data member. Well, why go that way? Only reason I can think of is to validate it. And why would I want to validate something that I'm typing in manually that's going to be hard-coded? There's really no reason to validate it. So this ought to be a little bit faster. In the constructor, that's my rule. In this constructor, that's my rule. Second, we're going to build a second one. It is possible, when you define your class, to define as many constructors as you want. This constructor said they asked me for a brand new pizza order and gave me no information. So we give them default values for everything. We can define other constructors. Here's an example for an employee. Remember that the constructor starts with the word public because we got to get to it from the outside, and then the name of the class. That's how we know it's a constructor versus a method versus a property. It's got the name of the class. Plus, it's in the constructor region, but that means absolutely nothing. You could accidentally put it somewhere else. It still works. This is a constructor because it's public and it has the class name. Here's another one called employee, but notice it has stuff between the parentheses. Start using the technical terms for those things in the parentheses are called parameters. In the last class, I talked about the parentheses as kind of like an envelope. And here I'm putting stuff in the envelope. And when I call this constructor or when I invoke this constructor, I have to, if I'm going to use this constructor, I have to send it 3 pieces of information. Have to. I have to have this envelope and it has to have 3 pieces of information. Not only that, there has to be a string followed by a decimal followed by a double. They have to come in that order. What this allows me to do is say, make a brand new employee, and by the way, here's their name, here's their wage, and here's how many hours they worked. So it doesn't start the new object out empty, it starts it with real data. And so what we then have to do is write code that says, take this name, this is the name of, it's like putting the name at the top. This is the employee's name. This needs to be sent in. We have to give it a name so we can refer to it. What this says is take that, whatever was sent to you in the envelope, stuff it into or send it to the property. What does the property do with it? Puts it in the member, right? Validates it first. Take this wage that was sent to you in the envelope, and I'm going to stop calling it the envelope pretty soon, the parameter called wage, and copy it into the hourly wage inside my class. And same thing for hours. So how do we build that? Pretty much the same way. So I want to build a constructor that accepts a first name and a last name. So here, make me a new pizza for this given customer name. Don't just give me a blank order sheet. Give me an order sheet that has a customer name filled in already, basically. That's what we're saying. What about the rest of it? We have to figure all that out again. We have to put the default values in. To build it, I usually leave this one alone. Okay, you go away and add a new constructor inside my constructor region. It's still public. It's a constructor, so it must have the class name. But what's different is what's in the parentheses. This constructor has nothing in the parentheses. This constructor is going to have 2 names. Every time you have a parameter, that's the stuff in the parentheses, you have to give it a type. What kind of data do you expect? And then we have to give it a name. This is kind of a temporary local name for that thing that was in the envelope. When we're done with it, we're going to crumple it up and throw it away. What do you want to call it temporarily? I like to keep them fairly short. How about F-name? If there's more than one parameter. I'm sorry, go ahead. Should camel case, this is so temporary. I'm even going to, I'm not going to break my rules because I'll mark you wrong for it. Okay. Good, thank you. If there's more than one parameter, and you can have as many as you need, I've done constructors with 12 parameters. I could write a constructor that gives me values for every one of these blooming things if I wanted to. I don't usually go that far, but you can. If there's more than one parameter, you put a comma and then the next one. What's its type? It's also a string, and I'll call it LNAME. So what's different here is we have a different constructor that has the ability to accept 2 strings. So what does it do inside? This stuff with some modifications. So I'm going to copy this so I don't have to type all that again. When I build constructors, I normally set a value for every single member. except for one thing. How do I know that this name is legal? Well, first of all, how do you screw up a name? Last hour, there was a programming logic beginning student in here, and I didn't know who he was. I asked him his name, said Dylan. I typed Dillon because that's who I have in my class last semester, and it wouldn't find him. He said, you spelled my name wrong. Or Zella. You know, my Dylan is wrong. Oh, right. How do I know? How do we write software to say, hey, dummy, that's the wrong Dylan? You can't. So how do we screw up a name? Potentially leave it blank. Should we have a customer who we don't know their last name? Maybe. Are you Noodles Incorporated? They never asked me my last name. As soon as I say Volker, they assume that's my last name, but at our pizza shop, we want both names. So our business rules, when we get around to writing them, and that's unit 2, we write our business rules. One of the rules is going to be you can't leave the first name blank, you can't leave the last name blank. If the parameters are available, the data is sent to the constructor, you don't bypass the property, you use it. We're validating it. And we don't set it to the empty string. We set it to whatever was sent in. Now, right now, we don't have any validation, so this has no difference from what I had there before. But in the future, we're going to validate our name. When we do, what this now says is whatever got sent to you in the envelope as a parameter, whatever the first name was sent to you, take that, send it to the property. When we send it to the property, that's a setter. So let's go take a look at that property here real quick, and I'll scroll back down there. Here's my customer setter. In the future, there's going to be validation in here. Right there, it's going to be validation. If everything is cool, then we take the new value and we put it in there. So this command down here basically says, take whatever you were sent and put it in the customer first name member, if it's cool. Take whatever you were sent as the last name and put it in the customer last name member, if it's cool. But we send it through the gatekeeper so that it's validated. If you're using parameters. That can't make perfect sense. There's no way. I'm confused. I know what I'm talking about. Go ahead.
You don't use like the numbers with underscore there?
What's that?
You don't use like numbers with the underscore?
Ultimately, yes, because what happens when I say send this to the property?
And it uses the one with the number.
Here's the property. All right, let me split these so we can see them both at the same time. And what I also need to do ultimately is show you how to use this constructor. Okay, so down here in my constructor, this constructor receives 2 pieces of information, right? First name and last name. They better be in that order. What happens if I send the flipped? Then Gaul becomes my first name and Volker becomes my last name. So you got to be careful who uses this, a programmer. Got to be careful. Gets 2 pieces of information. This says take that first name, send it to this property guy right here. When we send it to that property, because we're sending it to it, that invokes the setter automatically. Because we're changing it, right? Because this says change the customer first name. So that's the setter. This says take the new value. Why isn't it called fname? Because this is a whole different piece of code. Here we take Volker as a string and we send it. This property says, I'm going to call that value. I don't care what you called it before. This is my own little world. I'm calling it value. And Volker gets stuffed into here. Then what happens? That gets transferred up to here. So ultimately, it comes into here. Okay. So again, what's happened? let's take this one step further and really tie things together, I hope. Going back to my form load. Here I created a pizza. Now what I'm going to do is create another order. You can do that? Sure. How many cookies can I make with a cookie cutter? As many as I want. Remember, this is the cookie cutter. How many can I make? As many as I want. What should we call this one? How about order 2? Or another order. It's a variable name. Call it whatever you want. It's going to be equal to a new pizza order. But watch what happens when I type the parenthesis. IntelliSense is looking inside my class going, wait a minute, there's 2 constructors. Which one do you want? Here's what number 1 looks like. You put nothing in the parentheses. If you want, you can click the arrow and it'll help you. Oh, or you can send it 2 pieces of information. So it's helping me here. So the first thing has to be a string. It can be a literal. It can be a variable. It can be a calculation that makes a string. It can be anything. Remember that substring thing we were learning about? Could be. As long as it's a string when you're done, that's all you need.
Basically, it just allows you to do this.
Yeah, allows me to initialize it to something other than blank. And I can expand this and say, oh, by the way, I could put a date in here and say it's not today, it's yesterday's order. I could do that. But that date started out good. But starting out with an empty customer name didn't make a whole lot of sense. If I wanted to, let's watch this work first. All right, let's think about this. I run my program. Form load kicks in. It creates this pizza order, right? Instantiates it, which calls the constructor. What's in that order? What data is in that order? Today. What about the name? Blank. Why? Because we used this constructor. If I go back to the CS file here, I used that constructor because there's nothing in the parentheses. Whenever you call the constructor with nothing in the parentheses, it comes in here.
So it basically just calls on the constructor that you use with the parameters.
That matches what you have in the parameters. Exactly. Very good. How do we, when we deal with multiple different constructors, how does it know which one? Each one has to have something different in the parentheses. Has to be different parameters. It is illegal. It's not legal for us to define another constructor where it's last name, first name. Why? Because it's, again, 2 strings. Here, it's 2 strings. It can't tell them apart. It doesn't look at these names. It sees 2 strings. It's called the signature. The signature of this constructor is 2 strings. The signature of this constructor is nothing. If I send it last name, first name, that's 2 strings. I already have a constructor with that signature. I can't do it. It's not legal, syntactically. So back to this. Let's put a breakpoint in here.
So would it let you
Time out.
create another order that has the same name as the first one, but with the parameters of the second one?
I'm going to ask you to ask that again in just a second. Okay, so here, I haven't executed this line yet. So now I'm going to say execute that line, step over. It creates a pizza order. And if we look in here, probably kind of hard to see up on the screen, but if we look in here, notice the first name and last name are blank. But the cheese sticks are 0, the coupon is 0, all the toppings are false, the date is set properly, the size and the soda are empty. That's what we got. It says create one and just give me the default everything. When I start, doesn't mean I can't change them. Just gives me a starting point. Then, notice what another order is. It's null. What do you mean it's null? the yellow line in the debugger has not executed yet. It's the next line to be executed. So it hasn't executed yet. So now I'm going to say, okay, step over that one. Oops, I said step into. Oh, bummer. Let's try that again. I hit the wrong button in the debugger, so it skipped right over it. Okay, step over. Step over. Oh, so I did do it right. Okay, so here's another order. Notice now another order has a value. And I can look inside there. And notice cheese sticks, 0, false, 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 date's good, no size, no soda, but the names are filled in already. It's like me putting 2 cinnamon hearts in my cookie cutter and going chunk, and the cinnamon hearts stay in that copy of the cookie. And then the other one, I just use the plain old cookie cutter and go chunk, and I get no cinnamon hearts on my cookie. That's what it's similar to. Why would I create multiple constructors? Because the users of my class, that would be other programmers, right? Some of them want to be able to start from scratch with nothing. But one of my users has said, boy, it sure would be nice if I could create a new pizza order, because the customer came in, they said, hi, I'm Volker Gall, I'd like to order a pizza. I go, hang on a second. Push the magic button in my program, type in the name, and poof, I've got a brand new pizza order with the name already filled in. That's an option. Another user might say, you know what, I'd like to be able to put the size in there too. Oh, well, that's 3 strings then, right? Well, if that's the case, this plus the size, then I have to make another constructor. So let's do that really quickly. If you're following now, might be a good time to not, just to save ourselves a little grief. I'm going to steal this whole thing. That's my entire constructor, the second one. Oops, cut it. Now I have a third one. Notice when you collapse them, you can see what's in the parentheses. That's another nice thing about the collapsing. You can close that, get it, hide it out of the way. The dots tell me it's collapsed, but there's nothing in the parentheses. That one has a first name and a last name in the parentheses. And this one has the same thing, and I'm waiting for it to start yelling at me. I might have to run the program before it actually yells at me and says, I can't tell your 2 constructors apart. I would expect to get an error here, but I'm not getting it right now. I'm a little surprised. But my new user, the person who said, I love this pizza order class, but it would be really cool if you could give me a constructor that has first name, last name, size. And wanting to make everybody happy, I of course say, sure, I can do that. Now I have a constructor with 3 strings. That's a different signature than this one, is different than that one. So it's never confusing. Not to the program, might be to you yet. But now I don't have to initialize it here. I can say this. And again, if you're initializing using a parameter, you should use the property. Because I could type in super duper and go, wait, that's not one of our pizza sizes. I want to validate that. And we will. The validation's coming. But that's why we use the property, because this came from somebody else, right? Who'd this come from? Form load in my GUI. Well, you don't belong to my class. I'm validating everything that comes from the outside gets validated. Whoever uses the constructor is coming from the outside. If they send us anything, we're going to validate it before we put it in there. So now, one more time, I can create another pizza order. And I don't have to stick the, let's just do this here. Final order. No complaints except doesn't know that Baltimore is a name. I now have 3 different pizzas that I instantiated in 3 different ways. Just so you don't get a misperception, I can do this. Now I've said, okay, I've got 2 pizzas that start empty, and 1 pizza with Volker Gall, and 1 pizza for Miguel that's already a large. You can mix and match these any which way you need to. What if the size one isn't available? Then you have to talk to the owner of the class and say, can you add this feature to the program? If it's your class, you add it because you need it. If you wrote it, you can add it. At this point, what I picture is pizza order, pizza order, pizza order, pizza order in memory. First one's blank, 4th one's blank. This one's got my name in it, that one's got Miguel's name in it already. When we started, we haven't done anything else to them except created them, but 2 of them had data filled in already. Too much information. Either that or it's perfectly clear.
I understand it, but how did you word it? You said when initializing the parameters, make sure that we use the
Property.
properties.
We're talking in the class here, okay?
Yes.
If you're initializing using a parameter, you want it validated. So you use the property.
Okay.
This number of pies here is not being validated, right? Well, I'm hard coding a 1. Why would I hard code an illegal value? I shouldn't. Wait a minute. Isn't the blank first name illegal? Ultimately, yes, but for starting, I got to start somewhere. I can start with blank. I can do that. And this says don't validate. I know it's bad. It's a blank. I know. But the user better change it.
You're basically just setting it as.
Yeah, we're just initializing here. Right? We're just initializing. We are not done by any stretch. We're just initializing. And what we're going to do in the next unit is take this stuff out of the business class and put it back in the form. I think it's in the next unit. Maybe it's sneaking up on me here. We're just initializing. We're not done.
What would happen if you ran the form right now?
If I ran it?
Let's have 4 different parameters.
Okay. First of all, the breakpoint will kick in, but when it does, I'll just, oh, there it goes. What's on the screen? The first pizza order? No. The 4th pizza order? No. None of them. The pizza orders are in memory. How do they get on the form? You do the magic, programmers. We take what's in here and say, show it to them, show it to them, show it to them, show it to them. And then later when they hit save, we do the reverse. We say, take what's in that text box, put it in here. Take what's in that text box, put it in here. They pick the large radio button, size is large, and we just transfer it. This is a holder. This is a displayer.
Basically just makes it so that it exists.
This exists. It has all the data in one place. This is just a text box, right? How can I put all of this? It's in one form. But this is just one text, but it's a date picker, excuse me. This is a date, one text box. All right? It's one text box. Where do we fill that from? You and I have to know it comes from this piece of the business class. Why do we put it in the business class? Why don't we just skip that and throw it on the form like we did before? Encapsulation. I got all the stuff about one order in one piece of paper, one box. And I can also, and this is what we're doing next, write some magic in here. To say, whenever they're ready, give them the order total. Here's how you do it. Or just ask me and I'll give it to you. Using a custom method. So when I run this program, right now, I'm sucking up enough memory for 4 pizza orders. They're only in memory. They're not displaying on the screen. If I want them displayed on the screen, I have to transfer them. And I don't think that's this unit. I think it's the next one. No, it has to be this unit. Yeah, bottom of what used to be page 12. All right. This is for your information only. You don't have to use this. But you notice the redundancy up here with my with my constructors? There's an awful lot of redundant stuff there, isn't there? Set the pepperoni, sausage, mushroom defaults for everybody. Isn't there a way that I could prevent or bypass all this redundant stuff? There is. And that's what this shows you. Notice the empty employee. What it's doing is calling the other one. Why is it called this? Because I cannot put employee in here. I cannot put the class name there. It doesn't work. Okay. So use the keyword this. Remember, did we use this? This.close, right? Now we said this is the form. Not exactly accurate. Because we used this in a form class, then it's referring to the form. Now we're using it in a custom class, it's referring to this class. So this says, execute this class's constructor that has 1, 2, 3 pieces parts in it. Let me show you. This one, I'm going to comment out. I'm going to leave it there so you can see it. And now what I'm going to do is say public pizza order, parentheses, just like I had before. Except I'm not going to provide all that detail. I'm going to transfer control to one of my other constructors. Like which one? Usually the one that's got the most stuff in it. And I got to check the syntax. I believe it was a colon. Yep, and then this. Colon says, I'm not defining a constructor. I'm transferring control to a different one. Which one? The one in this class that has 3 pieces of information. That would be that one. What do I need to send it? 3 strings. The user didn't send me anything. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to send it 3 strings. If this confuses you, try to ignore it. But what it did for me when I saw it, it said, and why am I getting yelled at? That's not good. Curly bracket expected? Really? Oh yeah. That's goofy. Okay. That's the syntax. Without the curly bracket, without the semicolon. Wow. What does this constructor do? Nothing. But what it does do is it sends 1, 2, 3 pieces of information into this class as a constructor. Think of this as calling the constructor. Which constructor? 1, 2, 3, it's coming down here. What's the first name? Nothing. Last name? Nothing. Size? Nothing. So it puts the empty string here, the empty string there, the empty string there. But I don't have to repeat this over and over and over again. So it's a shortcut. The good news for you is I'm never asking you to do more than 1 or 2 constructors. So you're not saving a whole lot. So if you don't understand this part, don't use it. But you need to know that it exists, so if you see some of it in Google, you know what they're doing. This is a shortcut. Invoke another constructor. The 3-part instructor, but send it nothing. Which does exactly the same as this, right? Does exactly the same thing. It sets the first name, last name, size to nothing, empty strings, false, 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 ones, empty string 0, 0. That's what the other one does. This is the one you're most likely to steal. Chains constructors. Instantiating a class. We've been doing that all along, right? What does this initialize anything to? Nothing at this point. This says, give me a pointer that can point to an employee. It just gives you the pointer. It doesn't give you an employee yet. This is perfectly legal. Sometime later, or this is later. Notice how that's happening here. Later, I declare a variable up here, somewhere in my program. Later, I say, okay, now I actually need a brand new cookie cutter employee, boom, and make employee number 1 point to it. Over here, I combined those two statements. I declared it and immediately instantiated it. That's more common. I think my notes probably say that. Notice what's happening here. Call the constructor that requires 3 parts. Name, wage, hours. And here's where I combine them. Make me a pointer and immediately make it point to a brand new employee with all the default values. Make me another pointer called employee 2 and immediately assign it to a brand new employee with this default data filled in. On form load, transfer the class member values to the form. I don't always do this in form load. Usually there's a button. Okay. Later on, there'll be a list box. We'll say, which pizza order do you want to see? That one. Throw it all over. In this case, which pizza order do we want to see? Nathan, which one do you want to see? Call it by name. Which pizza order do you want to see? Final order. Okay. We want to see it on the screen. This is just in memory. If I want to see it on the screen, it is my job, programmer, to transfer what's in the class to the form. How do we do that? I want all of it. Okay, so what's the first thing on the form is my DTP order date dot value equals the final order dot order date. So picture this white piece of paper is in memory. It's in memory. What this says is go to that final order, and up here somewhere it says final order. Look down in here, find the order date, wherever it is. Grab that, and transfer it to the date picker. Why don't I put an underscore here? Can't, it's private. We got to remember where we are. We're in the code for the form. We're in form load. Takes a little while to get used to where am I in the form, in the business class. Later on there's a database component. Takes a little while to get used to. But this says take the date for final order and show it in the date picker on the screen. What's it going to show me? Today's date, because when we created this, we didn't designate a date. Can't. We don't have a constructor that works like that. So we get today's date, the default value. Then what's next on my form? Probably the first name, last name. Okay. So text first name dot text equals final order. Notice everything is inside the final order dot customer first name. I have to use the property because I'm not in the class anymore. I'm outside. So I have to ask, hey, you gatekeeper, would you give me the first name, please? And he'll go, yeah, sure. Here you go. so on and so forth. Let's do the size. There's no text size. Uh-oh. How are my sizes done? Radio buttons. Oh my goodness. In here, it's the empty string. How do I transfer that to the radio buttons? Well, if it's the empty string, the easy answer is don't do anything because all the radio buttons will still be unchecked. But what if we set one in there someplace? Oh no, I'm sorry. There is a size because he said final order. Thank you. Picked a good one for me. How do I transfer that? Which radio button do I want to turn on? Uh-oh. That's called a decision. Is this an if statement? Or is it a switch statement? There's only one answer to my question. I mean, there's 4 potential answers, right? Small, medium, personal, large, whatever they are. It's a switch. So I'm going to use a switch statement saying, take a look at what's in the final order dot size. If the size has large in it, let's just start from the smallest, personal in it, then RDO personal dot checked equals true. Is there an easier way to do this? Not a whole lot. Break. Don't forget to break on your switches. If it's small, then do RDO small. You do this for every single radio button. Hopefully you don't have a whole dozen of them. Just because it's text in the database doesn't mean it has to be a text box on the form. There are 4 sizes. I store them as text. But on the form, I collect them as radio buttons and I display them as radio buttons because that's what's probably best for the user so they don't screw it up. We have to follow through. I'm not going to do the checkboxes because they're all set to false, right? So I'm not going to do those. I could. And then what happens? I transfer false into the checkbox check properties, and they're already false. So I'm going to skip those in the interest of time. What else we got on the form? We've got a combo box for soda. Got a text box for number of pies. Shouldn't that be numeric up, down? If you prefer. I'm still fighting with myself about whether I like text boxes or numeric up, downs. There's advantages to both. We transfer everything from the final order. Why is it complaining? Going back to programming logic beginning, this is an integer. And it's telling me I cannot convert an int to a string, so I have to do the old toString here. There we go. Then what? Soda I'm going to skip. It's just text. I would put it in there, but it's going to be the empty string. Cheese sticks is 0. Coupon is 0. Tedious. And no, there's no easy way to do that. If you want to display to the user what's inside your class, you have to transfer from the business class to the GUI. And there's no easy way to do that. What's just as tedious is at some point you're going to go the other direction. Take what's on my form and put it in the class. Do I have a button save? Yeah. Here's what it looks like going the other direction. Oh, problem. Where's my final order? I lied to you. Because Lyle said, when you run this, what do we have? Invoker said, 2, 3, 4 pieces of paper, right? I declared those inside a form load. How long do they live? No. Until form load ends. How long does that take? Ew. That's not good. So if I want to share these, and it's very common, I got to take them out of here and put them in the class. Put them at class level. So I take these out of here and I put them up here. And there's another problem. These should be private. Now they're at class level, at the form level. So when I say this creates them, I think this is legal. I'm not getting any syntax errors. Now what do I do in form load? Nothing. In form load, I say, okay, go up there and get me whatever's in the final order and display it on the screen. Let's see if that works first. I'm a little curious. We should get Miguel's pizza order for large. There's Miguel, large. Sausage? Where'd that come from? Somebody said, check the sausage at design time. Not a good plan. Now, what if we do this? That's only happening on the form. Please do not get the perception that because copied stuff from here to the form. Do not get the perception that those two are somehow linked. They're not. This is sitting in the background, ready to do whatever you want with pizza orders. The first thing we said is, give me all your stuff because I want to show it on the screen. But they're not linked. Not at all. So the fact that I've changed these has not changed this at all. All I've done is change what the user sees on the screen. So now I have to reverse the process in button save. Then we'll take a break. Now that these are class level, I can get at them from button save. That's why I needed to do that. We've been messing with the final order. Final order dot sausage equals checkbox status of sausage. If this is checked, that's true, then this becomes true. If this is not checked, that's false, and this becomes false, because this is a Boolean property, so that's perfectly legal. I suggest you watch. I'm just hitting these as they pop into my head. There's no real logic to it. Doesn't matter. Tedious. Uh-oh. Now I'm trying to take text off of my text box and stick it into a number. Should all be familiar, right? Can't do that. So what I got to do to it, I got to parse it. Number of pies is an integer, so what language am I in here? Int.parse. But what happens if they leave it blank? Maybe I switch just to that try parse. I think that's how it works. Yep. Got to put an out in front of that. You happy now? Nope. I'll look that up later. For right now, I'm going to transfer it and make sure there's always something in there. There. Try parse said if there's nothing, if this crashes, if you try to parse it and it fails, give me a 1 or give me a 0 or give me something. I just got to remember what the syntax of that is, and I forgot. I'm going to put a breakpoint on this so we can stop the program and see what's happened. The only things that I transferred, in the interest of time, the only things that I transferred were the toppings and the number of pies. I didn't transfer anything else. In the real program, when I'm done with it, I'm going to have to transfer every single piece off the form into the class. I have to. At this point, what's in Miguel's order? Pepperoni? Not in here. Number of pies, 2? Not in here. It's still 1. It's still false because I haven't hit the save button yet. All I'm doing is messing around with the form. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changing in the business class right now. When I hit save, then the code says, all right, take the checkbox, put it into sausage, mushrooms, onions, take the number of pies, parse it, stick it into there. Now let's take a look around. True, 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 true. Large is still there. And what was the other one I changed? Number of pies, 2.
How do we open the autos window?
How do we open this one? If you don't see it, I think it's under debug.
But I ran it.
If you close it,
Yeah,
it won't come back. That's one of those. Well, here's the Windows autos. So debug Windows autos. Good question. Comes in handy, but I don't necessarily need it. I will often close it because I can just touch here and see there's a little triangle, and there it shows me all the pieces of information just by touching it in my code. True, true, true. And there's more. If I want to scroll down, there's probably a different one down there somewhere. Notice it gives me properties and it gives me sizes. There's green peppers, true, true, true. I thought I had 5 toppings. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, they're there. They're just kind of, that one's kind of hiding. They're not linked. And that's really done on purpose to separate the two so one person can work on the GUI and somebody else can work on the business class. Let's take a break. We'll come down. We'll come back and hopefully finish this. I think we're about there. Yep.